The views and opinions expressed today on Black Focus Radio are not the views and opinions of the station, its management, or its advertisers. Now, let's get ready to focus on our issues, our solutions, using our voices on Black Focus Radio.
Welcome to Black Focus, the show designed with our community in mind, where we focus on our issues, developing our solutions, using our voices. Central Arkansas, surrounding areas, and the nation. Get ready. Black Focus starts right now. Phone lines open at 855-525-5683. So here's your host, David W. Coleman.
It's Monday, and that means it's time for another edition of Black Focus Radio, where we talk about our issues using our voices and making our own solutions. 855-525-5683 is the number. That's how you get in touch with me. If you'd like to join the show, you can also send me an email at blackfocusradio@gmail.com. You got a guest? You want somebody on? You want a subject to talk about? Give me one? Hey, send me an email. I'll definitely respond to you. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Don't forget to go out to YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. While you're out there on YouTube, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And please tell a friend. Tell somebody. Will y'all do that for me? You know, we're trying to get our numbers up, so your help is desperately needed to make this thing happen. Okay? All right. Also, don't forget to join my one-man campaign to get rid of the N-word. You know what I'm saying? It's time to move into a new generation. It's time to leave all that stuff behind, that negativity, and let's bring up and bring forward the positivity that our ancestors left us. And one of the things that they didn't leave us was the N-word. So, as I like to say, just don't say it. Okay? Can y'all handle that? Can y'all handle it? I'm just asking you. Let's spread the word. Okay, a lot of stuff to talk about today. So many things have been going on since we last spoke with you. I hope you've been able to go back and listen to some of the old shows. If you have not or cannot, or you can't listen to the show while it's live, then just go out to YouTube and look up Black Focus Radio. We'll be out there. So, of course, you know, we do a lot of black facts. We're going to get into that here in just a moment. We're also going to talk about a little bit of the shutdown, but we're also going to talk about the SNAP benefits that basically expired November 1st. How do you feel about that? And by the way, how do you feel about SNAP recipients, particularly the ones who didn't vote? We're going to talk about that, all of that coming up here today as well. And by the way, I hate to do this to you, but I'm going to nerd out later on in this hour on 3i Atlas. I know some of you all don't even know about this, have not been paying attention to it, but we're going to talk a little bit about it, okay? And not trying to scare you, but I think you need to be aware of what's going on with that, okay? Also, next hour, we're going to examine the phrase, let them eat cake. Yeah, we're going to do that. Yeah, we're going to do that. And all of that's going to be around the SNAP benefits as well. Latinos are at it again. Y'all just need to stop. In fact, when we come back from Black Facts, we're going to start off with that one. And we can't go because there's a big election that's going to take place Tuesday in New York City. And I guess I'm more interested in it on a number of reasons, but with my proximity to New York City, I'm only about 2 hours, 2.5, 3 hours away. Zoran Mamdani. And have you seen the racism that has come out from the Rethuglicans and the demagogues? Oh my God, it's unbelievable. And of course, we wrap up the show with what we must do. That's what's on the agenda today. Big shoe, as Ed Sullivan used to say. We've got a really, really big shoe today on Black Focus Radio. But before we do anything, we've got to do Black Facts. So let's do that right now.
Dynamic Black Facts. Our culture, our history, our people.
Over the last few months, or I should say weeks, we've been talking about the Red Summer. The Red Summer is significant in what happened then and to some extent what's happening now. One of the things that I'm going to examine later on in the show is what's wrong with white people? I'm going to ask that question. But right now, I want to talk about another incident that took place during the Red Summer. There are so many. And my goal is, as long as I'm on the air for the next few weeks, our Black Fact is going to be about the Red Summer. Now, there may be other Black Facts interspersed in there, but our main focus over the next few months is to talk about the Red Summer. So every time someone goes and listens to an older show, the first thing that they're going to learn is about the Red Summer, because Black Facts are important. Because we found that black people, or I should say white people, are trying to erase our history. We're not going to let them do that. It's not going to happen. And oh, by the way, I am reading Black AF History. If you have not read the book, you need to go out and get it. It's really good. All right. And one of the things about the book is that although a lot of stuff that I've studied, it validates what I've studied. You know, I tell people all the time, you get on the internet and you see these things, and you say, oh God, your hair's falling out, my hair's... No. Did you go back and check? I tell you, use 3 sources. And to read that book, and it validates some of the earlier readings that I've had or I've made. It's just so great. You need to go out and get the book. But anyway, let's talk about Rosewood. The Rosewood Massacre was a racially motivated massacre of black people and the destruction of a black town that took place during the first week of January 1923 in rural Levy County, Florida. At least 6 black people were killed, but eyewitness accounts suggested a higher death toll of 27 to 150. In addition, 2 white people were killed in self-defense by one of the victims. The town of Rosewood was destroyed in what contemporary news reports characterized as a race riot. By the way, the people that were rioting were white people. Florida had an especially high number of lynchings of black men in the years before the massacre, including the lynchings of Charles Strong and the Perry County Massacre in 1922. Before the massacre, the town of Rosewood had been a quiet, primarily black, self-sufficient... Let me read that again. Before the massacre, the town of Rosewood had been a quiet, primarily black, self-sufficient whistle stop on the Seaboard Airline Railway. Trouble began when white men from several nearby towns lynched a black Rosewood resident because of accusations that a white woman in nearby Sumner had been assaulted by a black drifter. So you go and assault this guy. I mean, you go and just pick any black person. And we always know that those stories have been a lie. Anyway, kind of reminds you of somebody else we know, huh? A mob of several hundred white men combed the countryside hunting for black people and burned almost every structure in Rosewood. For several days, survivors from the town hid in nearby swamps until they were evacuated to larger towns by train and car. No arrests were made for what happened in Rosewood. The town was abandoned by its former black and white residents. None of them ever moved back, and the town ceased to exist. Although the rioting was widely reported around the United States at the time, few official records documented the event. The survivors, their descendants, and the perpetrators all remained silent about Rosewood for decades. 60 years after the rioting, the story of Rosewood was revived by major media outlets when several journalists that covered it in early 1980. The survivors and their descendants all organized in an attempt to sue the state for failing to protect Rosewood's black community. In 1993, the Florida legislature commissioned a report on the incident. As a result of its findings, Florida compensated the survivors of their descendants for the damages which they had incurred because of racial violence. The incident was the subject of the 1997 movie feature film by John Singleton. In 2004, the state designated the site of Rosewood as a Florida Heritage Landmark. Officially, the recorded death toll during the first week of January 1923 was 6 blacks and 2 whites. Some survivors' stories claim that up to 27 residents were killed, and they also assert that newspapers did not report the total number of white deaths. Minnie Lee Langley, who was in the carrier house when it was besieged, recalls that she stepped over many white bodies on the porch when she left the house. A newspaper article published in 1984 stated that estimates of 150 victims might have been exaggerations. Several eyewitnesses claimed to have seen a mass grave which was filled with bodies of black people. One of them remembers seeing 26 bodies being covered with a plow, which was brought from Cedar Key. However, by the time authorities investigated these claims, most of the eyewitnesses were dead or too elderly and infirm to lead them to the site to confirm the stories. Initially, Rosewood had both black and white settlers. When most of the cedar trees in the area had been cut by 1890, the pencil mills closed and many white residents moved to Sumner. By 1900, the population in Rosewood had become predominantly black. The village of Sumner was predominantly white, and relations between the two communities were relatively amicable. 2 white families in Rosewood named Goins and Carrier were the most powerful. The Goins family brought the turpentine industry to the area, and in the years preceding their tax were the second largest landowners in Levy County. To avoid lawsuits by white competitors, the Goins brothers moved to Gainesville, and the population of Rosewood decreased slightly. The Carriers were also a large family, primarily working at logging in the region. By the 1920s, almost everyone in the close-knit community was distantly related to each other. The population of Rosewood peaked in 1915 to 355 people. Florida had effectively disenfranchised black voters since the start of the 20th century by high requirements for voter registration. Both Sumner and Rosewood were part of a single voting precinct counted by the U.S. Census in 1920. The combined population of both towns was 638, 344 blacks, 294 whites. Racial violence in the time was common throughout the nation, manifested as individual incidents of large legal actions or attacks on entire communities. Lynchings reached a peak around the start of the 20th century as southern states were disenfranchising black voters and imposing white supremacy. White supremacists used it as a means of social control throughout the South. In 1866, Florida did as many southern states passed laws called black codes disenfranchising black citizens. Although these were quickly overturned and black citizens enjoyed a brief period of improved social standing, by the late 19th century, black political influence was virtually nil. The white Democratic-dominated legislature passed a poll tax in 1885, which largely served to disenfranchise all poor voters. Losing political power, black voters suffered a deterioration of their legal and political rights in years to follow. When U.S. troops training began in World War I, many white Southerners were alarmed at the thought of arming black soldiers. A confrontation regarding the rights of black soldiers culminated in the Houston riot of 1917. German propaganda encouraged black soldiers to turn against their real enemies, American whites. By the way, let me put a pin in that for a moment, because, I just told you I'm reading Black AF history. When you go back and you look at the wars, the Revolutionary War, the War 1812, the Civil War, one of the things that the enemy tried to do was lure black people. In fact, it was the North who decided that if not for black people, we would lose this war. We already know that Lincoln did not care to emancipate black people. In fact, black people were emancipated actually before the Emancipation Proclamation. I may talk about that next week. Anyway, we're talking about right now the story of Rosewood. All right. Let's talk about the Walker family real fast. The Rosewood massacre occurred while a white woman in Sumner claimed she had been assaulted by a black man. Frances Fannie Taylor, of 22 years, in 1923, was married to James, a 30-year-old millwright employed by Comer and Sons in Sumner. They lived there with their 2 children. James's job required him to leave each day during the darkness of the early morning. Neighbors remembered Fannie Taylor as a very peculiar person. She was meticulously clean, scrubbing her cedar floors with bleach so that they shone white. Other women attested that Taylor was aloof. No one knew her very well. On January 1st, 1923, the Taylor's neighbor reported that she heard a scream while it was still dark, grabbed her revolver and ran next door to find Fannie bruised and beaten with scuff marks across the floor. Taylor was screaming that someone needed to get her baby. She said a black man was in her house. He had come through the door and assaulted her. The neighbor found the baby, but no one else. Taylor's initial report stated her assailant beat her about the face but did not rape her. Rumors circulated, widely believed by whites in Sumner, that she was both raped and robbed. The charge of rape of a white woman by a black man was inflammatory in the South. The day before, the Klan had held a parade and rally of over 100 hooded Klansmen 50 miles away in Gainesville under a burning cross and a banner reading, "First and always protect womanhood." The neighbor also reported the absence that day of Taylor's laundress, Sarah Carrier, whom the white woman in Sumner called Aunt Sarah. Philomena Goins, Carrier's daughter, told a different story about Fannie Taylor many years later. She joined her grandmother Carrie at Taylor's house as usual that morning. They watched a white man leave by the back door later in the morning before noon. She said Taylor did emerge from her home showing evidence she had been beaten, but it was well after the morning. Carrier's grandson and Philomena's brother, Arnett Goins, sometimes went with them. He had seen the white man before. Carrier told others in the black community what she had seen that day. The black community of Rosewood believed that Fannie Taylor had a white lover. They got into a fight that day, and he beat her. When the man left Taylor's house, he went to Rosewood. Quickly, Levi County Sheriff Eli Walker raised a posse and started an investigation. When they learned that Jesse Hunter, a black prisoner, had escaped from a chain gang, they began to search to question him about Taylor's attack. Men arrived at Cedar Key, Otter Creek, and Chiefland and Bronson to help with the search. Adding confusion to the events recounted earlier, as many as 400 white men began to gather. Sheriff Walker deputized some of them, but was unable to initiate all of them. Walker was asked for dogs from a nearby convict camp, but one dog may have been used by a group of men acting without Walker's authority. Dogs led a group of about 150 men to the home of Aaron Carrier, Sarah's nephew. Aaron was taken outside where his mother begged the men not to kill him. He was tied to a car and dragged to Sumner. Sheriff Walker put Carrier in protective custody at the county seat in Brunson to remove him from the men in the posse, many of whom were drinking and acting on their own authority. Worried that the group would quickly grow further out of control, Walker also urged black employees to stay at the turpentine mills for their own safety. After the lynching of Sam Carter, the mob met Sylvester Carrier, Arian's cousin and Sarah's son, on a road and told him to get out of town. Carrier refused, and when the mob moved on, he suggested gathering as many people as possible for protection. Despite the Sheriff Walker's efforts and the mill supervisor, W.H. Pillsbury, to dispense the mobs, white men continued to gather, and on the evening of January 4th, a mob of armed white men went to Rosewood and surrounded the house of Sarah Carrier. It was filled with approximately 15 to 25 people seeking refuge, including many children hiding upstairs under mattresses. Some of the children in the house, because they were visiting the grandmother for Christmas. They were protected by Sylvester Carrier and possibly two other men, but Carrier may have been the only one armed. He had a reputation of being proud and independent. In Rosewood, he was a formidable character, a crack shot, expert hunter, music teacher who was simply called Man. Many white people considered him arrogant and disrespectful. Sylvester Carrier was reported in the New York Times saying that the attack on Fannie Taylor was an example of what Negroes could do without interference. Whether or not he said this is debated, but a group of 20 to 30 white men, inflamed by the reported statement, went to the Carrier house. They believed that the black community in Rosewood was hiding escaped prisoners, including Jesse Hunter. Reports of several shots were exchanged. The house was riddled with bullets, but the whites did not capture it. The standoff lasted long into the next morning. When Sarah and Sylvester Carrier were found dead inside the house, several others were wounded, including a child who had been shot in the eye. Two white men, C.P. Polly Wilkerson and Henry Andrews, were killed. Wilkerson had kicked in the front door, and Andrews was behind him. At least 4 white men were wounded, one possibly fatal. The remaining children in the Carrier house were spirited out the back door into the woods. They crossed dirt roads at one time, then hid underbrush until they were all gathered away from Rosewood. This is a huge, huge story. And it goes on, and I can't give you the whole thing, but I wanted to give you the gist of another white massacre that took place. And it's an example of what's going on today. That's why later on in the show, I'm going to ask the question, what's wrong with white people? And that's our Black Fact for today.
Keep listening to Black Focus Radio for more dynamic Black facts, our culture, our history, our people on joynetradio.com.
I hope you enjoyed that Black Fact. Of course, we're going to do a Black Fact. Well, we do a Black Fact every show, give you some updates. And it's even more important now that we talk about Black history, because Black history is American history. The more we know, the more we learn. And we've got to make sure that our children understand that we didn't evolve from slaves. And if you understand your enemy, then you'll know better how to approach them, how to defend yourself when they bring to you their bigotry and their racism. Okay? Coming up, I'm going to ask the question, why Latinos at it again? I'm tired of y'all. Okay? Shut up. And Asians too, by the way. Back in a moment. It's called Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices on joynetradio.com. Hey friends, David W. Coleman here for Coleman's Dynamic Products and ribrub.com. That's RIBBRUBB.com. It's where you will find the best dry marinade for baking, grilling, and smoking your favorite meats and vegetables. We're gearing up for a very busy season, so I want you to make sure you take advantage of the great sale we've got going on right now. It's the Coleman's Dynamic Gift Box. It comes in 3 great flavors: hot and spicy, original, or scorching, or a 4th combination box. What is a Coleman's Dynamic Gift Box? Well, I'm glad you asked. You get 3 bags of Coleman's Dynamic Rib Rub, 3 bags of Coleman's Dynamic Rib Nuts, a bag of Coleman's Dynamic Fry Dust, and of course, you get a bottle of rib juice, pepper juice, and rib dust. You can't beat that. Order a Coleman's Dynamic Gift Box today and get a digital copy of the Coleman's Dynamic Recipe Book. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now is the time to place that order for Coleman's Dynamic Gift Box before the holiday rush. And remember, bake it, grill it, smoke it. Oh yeah, at ribrub.com. Welcome back to Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices. 855-525-5683 is the number. That's how you get in touch with me. Don't forget to support our sponsors. Ribrub.com. That's RIBBRUBB.com. Bake it, grill it, shake it, or smoke it. Oh yeah. And of course, Joynet Radio, whom I've almost been on this station it's been 9 years, believe it or not. Can you believe that? I'm that old. Yeah, it's been that long. They broadcast out of Little Rock, Arkansas, and doing a great job being the only black-owned radio station that is bringing knowledge to the people. So shout out to JC Loves. Okay, so this segment I want to talk a little bit about Latinos. And look, I gotta do this. I'm sorry. I just have to do it because I'm getting a little tired. I'm just gonna be honest with you, man. You know, I do social media, and you know, when I post, most of my stuff are repost. All right. Every now and then I'll drop a nugget. Of course, I'll post my show, which I do on a regular basis, and of course I post my my dynamic picks, my dynamic power picks, as I call them, every week as well. But I read and I look at a lot of things, and of course, in doing this, you have to be concerned about AI, because AI is ever present. It's omnipresent, I should say. And you don't know whether or not you're getting some good stuff or some bad stuff. So that's why I tell people, when you're out here doing research, just go out and verify it by 3 different sources. Okay. And by the way, don't jump for instance, if you're Googling something, don't jump on the first thing that pops up in Google, because a lot of times that's an ad, that's an AI. People pay for those spots. So sometimes you got to scroll down and look for what I consider credible sources. I just wanted to drop that knowledge on you, because I'm growing a little tired of Latinos. And I know before you say, well, Dave, you're being a little prejudiced. Notice I said prejudice. I'm not prejudiced. I'm not racist. I'm prejudiced. That's a word that we often get mixed up. Just so you know, racism is a social construct that was created by a power structure, that power structure being white supremacy. And racism is something that permeates throughout the entire system. So for instance, racism is redlining. That means steering black people to black neighborhoods and not giving them legitimate loans for their homes. Racism is gerrymandering. Racism is not hiring a black person or a person who doesn't have a traditional name. That's racism. And that system is controlled by the white power structure. You understand what racism is now? That's a simplistic explanation. I'm going to tell you why that's important here in just a second. So I, as a black person, cannot be racist because I don't hold or control, or did I create a power system, a mechanism of control to discriminate against other people. Does that make sense? I can be prejudiced. I'm prejudiced on color sometimes. There are certain colors I hate. I can be prejudiced towards food that I eat. I'll give you one. I'm prejudiced against okra. I'll tolerate okra every now and then when I'm making gumbo, but I'm prejudiced against okra. And I can be prejudiced against people based on their color, their national origin, their religion. Oh, that's prejudice. That's not racism. I say that because I want to educate some of my Latin brothers, because what you don't understand is that you are under the thumb of white supremacy just like we are, and more so than we are, because you are so brainwashed that you think that being white will make, or at least acting white will make them, those in the white power structure, like you better. Hello? Give an example. Cash Patel is a classic example of that. A couple of weeks ago, he was apparently at a white supremacist event, and many people in the audience and around him let him know that you ain't one of us. You're an Indian. You're not an American. That's what white supremacy is. But Latinos, you think black people are ate up with it. Latinos, they're not, they're totally consumed with it. I've told you the story of the Bangaliza in Brazil. She was black as a night, beautiful woman. I mean, gorgeous, sexy. But she wasn't good enough because she wasn't white. Even more so that her grandmother would give her daughter white dolls. You see, beauty in black in South America and in Latin American countries is a stain. You know, it was just a few years ago that Mexico decided that they would even acknowledge their Afro-Latinas, their Afro-Mexicans. There's video of them. They're beautiful. Beautiful men, women, children. Whole country wouldn't even acknowledge them. And even now, Latinos will try to marry someone as white, as close to white as possible, hoping to bleach the little melanin that they have out of their skins. I hate to tell you this, my Latino brother and sisters, that's a sickness. Because see, subconsciously, you don't even think you're worthy. You don't even think you measure up to white people. So much so that you have to bleach your skin, hopefully, and here's the thing about it. Theoretically, you will never bleach the Latino out of your skin. Somewhere down the line, genetics happen, and it's going to be a dark one that pops up when he pops out. Yeah, that's going to happen. And oh, by the way, that dark one might be an Afro or a former African Latina. What you gonna do about that? Now, I say all this to say that the Latino community is probably the most racist against black people there is. Let me say that again. I want to make sure y'all heard what I said. The Latino community is probably the most racist there is against the black community. Because what they see in us, they actually see in themselves. And that's what they're running from, is what they see in us, is their history, their heritage. But it's cognitive dissonance to run away from it because you're running away from yourself. Does that make sense? So now that all of this stuff has come to fruition here in America and the hate is palpable around the country against Latinas, Mexicans, South Americans, any person of color, Latinas are begging for help. They're begging for help. And who are they begging? Us. Us. Because they voted for Trump. They voted for Trump and these policies thinking that they were white. If this is not the epitome of what white supremacy has done to a community, nothing else is. There are many instances of white supremacy that we can point to and how it has damaged people with my hue, my melanin. But the epitome of what white supremacy has done is the Latinx community. Based on what I just said about how they are literally trying to marry people with white features so they could bleach their skin color. This is what white supremacy has done to you, and you have not even realized it. So much so that you purposely discriminate against people who look like me. But people who look like me have had enough. People who look like me, as I've been saying for years now, have decided to opt out of y'all's fight. Okay? You know, black people have saved America over and over again. And as I've read Black History at Black AF History by Michael Harriet, by the way, what I found, I said Harriet, what I found in that book is that even going all the way back to the Revolutionary War, even going back to 1619, when the Pilgrims, or I should say, the first colonizers landed on this shore, it was black people who saved their asses. Saved them from starving to death because they were literally eating each other. Yeah, they were. It was black people, the native people, and many of the slaves that they had captured who knew how to grow crops, who knew how to farm, saved their white asses. All the way back, even though we had been captured and enslaved, we still saved white folks. 1776, it was black people, escaped slaves who fought and helped win the independence of this country. Hello, the War of 1812, it was black people. The Spanish-American War, the Civil War, World War I, World War II, Vietnam, Korea. Black people have always saved this country. It always amazed me why our patriotism would ever be questioned by white folks. Black folks have fought and died more per capita than any other race in this country. But let me get back to the Latinos. I'm tired of y'all posts, man. Stop posting. Every time you post something that comes across my wall, I'm going to put a derogatory remark on it. It ain't going to be cussing, but you ain't going to like what I'm going to post. Because the rights that you have right now, even though they're being taken away from you, they were born on the blood and sweat and tears of black people. When you go back and you look at some of those old videotape of black people marching for civil rights, it ain't a lot of Mexicans in the crowd. Hello? In fact, it ain't a lot of Jews in that crowd. You know, they're easily seen because it was a sea of black folks. So a white or a Jewish person, even a light-skinned person, would show up fairly clearly, right? So here we are now. You are upset that black people are not showing up for your marches. You are upset that black people are not protesting what ICE is doing to them. And you had the unmitigated gall to say, it's gonna happen to you. A Latino telling black people that if they don't come out and support marches against ICE, that it's just a matter of time that it's gonna happen to black folks. Black folks still sipping their tea. You know what I'm saying? We still sipping our tea. We just sitting here. Oh, hell, they just killed Kenny. I'm not trying to make light of what's going on out there because it is a travesty. It is terrible. But I hate to say I told you so. Later on in the show, I'm going to talk a little bit more about black people and poor white folks. And I'm going to tell them I told you so. Y'all stick and stay for that. But we're not marching anymore, bro. I've said this over and over and over again on the show. We're not getting out there. Our protests are going to be our own individual protest. If you want to join, fine. If you want to show favor, want us to show you favor, then when we call something, your ass need to get on board. And you need to come with your hat in your hand and say, yo, senor, por favor, I was sorry, I was wrong. That's what you need to say. All of y'all out there, all of you poor white folks, all you poor Latinos, all you poor ethnic groups who are now realizing that white people don't give a damn about you, you need to start coming to pay homage to black folks. Because you know what's going to get us out of this mess? Raise your hand if you're black. Yeah. We've always been the tip of the spear. But you've benefited off of our fighting. You know, I tell people all the time, you know what makes a arrow powerful? Do you know? Here are the components of an arrow. There's the tip, which is made out of usually a sharpened, hard piece of metal or rock. There's the shaft. And then there are the phalanges, and then there's the notch. All of those components work together in order to make that weapon effective. Okay? Without the shaft, the tip, I guess you could throw it and hurt someone. Without the phalanges, the arrow doesn't guide properly. Without the notch, the arrow cannot be launched. We hadn't even talked about the bow that does the actual launching. Now, what's my point? Black people have been the tip of the arrow, the tip of the spear for centuries in this country when there were injustices visited on people. We are the most patriotic. All we asking you to be is the shaft, the phalanges. By the way, if y'all don't know what those are the little feathers, or the notch. That's all we're asking you to be. We were the tip. But you know what? The tip has decided that, we done. It's not our fault. And you can post video after video. It's not going to make a difference to us. I'm not going out to march. Neither are my friends. We are not doing anything that will keep you from being arrested because you wouldn't save yourself. I use this analogy all the time. You know, in order to be saved, you have to want to be saved. It's kind of like a drug dealer. I mean, a drug addict or an alcoholic or anything that you may be suffering from. You have, unless it's medical, of course, but any addiction, the one of the first steps in the process is wanting to stop it. I want to stop snorting cocaine. I want to stop shooting heroin. I want to stop drinking alcohol. That's the first step, is fixing in your mind that I want to stop. That's an addiction. So what you have got to do, because you have a sickness, and you've got to decide that, hey, I don't want to have this sickness anymore. It's going to be different from anything that I've ever looked at. I need to go back and look at my black brothers and understand what they stand for, not just for America, but for the world, because the blackness created this world. And I need to pay homage to them. I need to fall down on my knees and say thank you. And then I need to join with those brothers and sisters because they clearly have the best interest at heart. Look, think about this. If we didn't have America's best interest at heart, how many times that if you go back and you look at history, blacks outnumber whites? That's where the 3/4 compromise came in back in slavery times. Black people could have risen up and killed all those white folks. We've always been a giving people. But what we're not going to do is continue to let people run roughshod over us. So, Latino brother and sister, stop asking black people where y'all at. I will tell you where we at. We at the Black Cookout, kicking back like a fat rat doing the roller coaster. We would ask you to join us, but you wouldn't understand. Let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to flip the script a little bit, and I'm going to talk a little bit about 3I Atlas. Back in a moment. It's called Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices on joinetradio.com.
Barbecue season is here and you're still using that 99-cent goop full of chemical derivatives and high fructose corn syrup for your sauce? Stop, please. Get to ribrub.com now and save your next cookout with an array of all natural rubs and sauces. Start with the Dynamic Rib Dust for seasoning and the Dynamic Rib Rub for flavor, and top off your grilled or smoked masterpiece with Dynamic Rib Juice. Don't forget the Dynamic Pepper Juice for just the right kick for those chicken wings. One other thing, you've got to try the delectably delicious Dynamic Rib Nuts. Can't decide? Order a Dynamic gift box and satisfy all of your cravings. Come on, give me your hand and let me take you to barbecue land at ribrub.com. That's RIBBRUBB.com, and we'll show you how to bake it, grill it, smoke it. Oh yeah.
Welcome back to Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices, 855 525-5683 is the number. That's how you get in touch with me if you'd like to join the show. Don't forget to send me an email at blackfocusradio@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. Like, share, and subscribe. Go out to YouTube and make sure you do that thing with your thing. Hit that button that says subscribe. Okay, so this segment, and I will tell you, next segment, we're going to talk a little bit about SNAP. We got to throw in a little Zoran Mondani and then what we must do. But I want to talk a little bit this segment about a nerdy topic, but it's something that's worth talking about. And certainly I'm fascinated by it. No ifs, ands, buts. It's called 3-Eye Atlas. And you may not know what 3-Eye Atlas is. In fact, it's becoming more and more apparent that not even the astrophysicists who have been talking about this really know what it is. In fact, it's something that cannot be explained by our measurements. Now, I like to say that maybe the Borg is coming. But let's be clear. 3-Eye Atlas is what was at first named a comet. And of course, we've heard about comets and Halley's Comet. We studied that in school back in the day. There have been multiple comets that have come through this area over the last few years. But this one is a lot more unusual, to the point where some scientists are suggesting that it's alien technology. There's one scientist, I believe Avi Loeb, who was an astrophysicist at Harvard. He consulted with NASA, very, very well respected. There's been others that I've watched. Of course, you know, I'm a big Neil deGrasse Tyson fan. He's kind of held off on some of the extremism. But Loeb has been saying that he believes that it is a 30 to 40% likelihood that 3-Eye Atlas is alien technology based on its characteristics, its measurements. It's what we can't measure, it's what our quote unquote primitive instruments don't understand. This is a oblong, what did they say? It's 200 kilometers wide, 2 kilometers wide or something like that, that is flying through space at an astronomical speed, even faster than comets. Well, let's say faster than any comet that has been recorded under our instruments. Some say it's hollow. Some say typically comets are made of ice and water and gas, but this particular comet doesn't seem to be made of such material. There are fused, or I should say, plates on this particular device that, I shouldn't say device, but extraterrestrial, that seem to be manufactured, although we haven't seen. Some have suggested that. We're going to get a good look at 3-Eye Atlas on the 4th, which is tomorrow. It's going to get the closest that we've ever seen, and astronauts, and then let's see, there's the 11th. As a matter of fact, the 4th, there is a European Space Agency probe that is flying, just happened to be flying towards it. It's going to get its first pictures. Unfortunately, because that particular probe is headed to Jupiter, those pictures will not be beamed back to the United States until, I shouldn't say the United States, but to the world until, 4 months from November 4th. There's another probe that this probe is gonna come by Mars, that is 3-Eye Atlas, and we'll get a closer look at this device, or whatever it is. Now, I think it's important for us to understand, there are two things for me. I've listened over the last 2 weeks now, at some of the smartest men and women in the world, astrophysicists, talk about this thing. It's weird that NASA won't talk about it, but the European Space Agency will. And they are confused. Not that they don't know what they're doing, but based on what we know as technology today, these astrophysicists some seem to be scared. Could this be alien life? Could this be a probe that is monitoring Earth? Could this be something? Because if you backdate it, and I talked about it on the JC Love Morning Show, if you backdate it, it goes back 271 light years, I believe, somewhere in there. They were able to track its origin based on mathematical calculations. 270 light years is a long way away, which equates to about 1 million to 2 million years in our time. So this probe was launched, or it came from that far away. There are all kinds of implications here. And look, me with my Star Wars, Star Trek brain, my science fiction brain, I'm a little excited, but I'm a little scared. Here's why. I think that the human being on planet Earth is flawed. Murder, rape, colonialism, destroy, destroy, destroy. Led by white supremacist mentality. I believe that we are flawed. Doesn't matter if you're black or white. Doesn't matter what ethnocentric origin you may have. We are flawed. And I think, just based on common sense, knowing a little bit about the pictures that have been sent back by the Hubble space station, the Voyager, and all of the things that have come. And by the way, I made a post the other day. If you saw one of the early Star Treks, was it First Contact? Voyager was the Voyager probe that was launched that got equipped with alien technology and sent back, and the Enterprise discovered it. I made a joke about that the other day. People kind of laughed at it. But I just think that there are better worlds out there. I know you Christian folks don't want to think that because y'all still think that the world was created 4,000 years ago. We know for a fact that that wasn't the case. But whomever created this earth, I think they used it as a template to create better Earths. I think there are other Earths out there. There are thousands of solar systems. When you look up, those may be stars to you, but many of them are solar systems. This particular device came from outside of our solar system. It had to come from somewhere. It doesn't explode. It doesn't react the way a normal comet would react. It's made of different material. Oh my God. What's going on here? I'm excited in a way, and I'm scared in a way. And I'm talking about it today because I think you need to start paying attention. It's going to turn on your ear, particularly some of my religious friends. It's going to turn you on your ear. Because you want to believe one thing with your cognitive dissonance, but science says something different. What if 3AI, in fact, when it flies by and they can take a good picture of it, what if it has fabricated outsides? Usually if it's an asteroid or a comet, it is damaged by space debris, whether there are rocks running into it and hitting it and exploding. Early reports are saying this particular item has none of that. We'll know more here in the next week or so. I say all this because there are so many things that are going on in the world. And if in fact 3i Atlas is what some people are suggesting is an alien probe to attack the world, is it going to make a difference whether or not I'm black or white or Hispanic or Jew or Gentile or Muslim? Will it? The question is, will the world stand together under attack? I don't know. And I'm hoping that 3i Atlas is not what many people are at least thinking it might be. But I'm fascinated by it. I must admit, I'm a nerd. I'm fascinated by it. I want to see close-up pictures of it. I want an analysis of this thing. I want to know whether or not there is life out there, because here on Earth, this can't be the best. The gods, whomever you call, who created all of this can't be the best that we have to offer, because the human existence is sick. We'll take the top of the hour break. When we come back, we're going to ask the questions about SNAP benefits and how are SNAP people feeling about now. Back in a moment. It's called Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices on joynetradio.com.
The views and opinions expressed today on Black Focus Radio are not the views and opinions of the station, its management, or its advertisers. Now, let's get ready to focus on our issues, our solutions, using our voices on Black Focus Radio.
Welcome to Black Focus, the show designed with our community in mind, where we focus on our issues, developing our solutions, using our voices. Central Arkansas, surrounding areas, and the nation. Get ready. Black Focus starts right now. Phone lines open at 855-525-5683. So here's your host, David W. Coleman.
Welcome back to Black Focus Radio, our issues, our solutions, our voices. It's the second hour of the show. Like, share, and subscribe on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, especially YouTube. You can go back and listen to all of the old shows that I've had. Some of them are audio, but most lately have been video. At least I know for the last year have been video. So make sure you go out and check those out. And also, don't forget to join me for my one-man band to get rid of the N-word. Just stop saying it. Just don't say it. Shut up. When you hear somebody say, man, look, let me ask you a question. Instead of calling him the N-word, what would happen if you called him, what's up, my brother? What would happen? Instead of calling your man, that's my N-word, call him, that's my man. That's my black man. In fact, yeah, don't just say that's my man. That's my black man. Just don't say it. All right? You know, during the break, I went out and I told you I bought this book, and I went and I was looking at, look, this is it right here. Black AF History, one of the good, it's a very good book. I've read a lot of this stuff, but I wanted to read something to you about Onesimus Saves the World. Remember I told you that it was black people who saved the colonists? It was black people who saved those white supremacists? Here's a story. In 1706, Boston preacher Cotton Mather received a tremendous gift in the offering plate. A human being. When Mather opened his tithes envelope and saw the blessing, he said it was a mighty smile of heaven upon his family, and decided to name the newly arrived African Onesimus, after a biblical slave Wasn't that mighty white of him? One would have thought that Onesimus found Mather to be a little dim-witted. After all, Mather wanted Onesimus to worship some white man named Jesus, who apparently hated witches and gave away slaves on his birthday. Mather disliked Onesimus because Onesimus also refused to convert from Islam to Christianity, and because Onesimus's intelligence made him seem wicked and thievish. At any rate, Cotton Mather didn't trust Onesimus, especially when the slave told Mather something impossible to believe. He knew how to cure smallpox. At the time, the disease was ravaging the colonies. When Mather asked his smart-mouthed slave if he had ever contracted smallpox, Onesimus answered yes and no. Onesimus showed his owner a scar on his arm and explained that he had undergone surgery in Africa that made him immune to smallpox. Mather balked. There was no way he was going to take some medical advice from a black slave who didn't know that Jesus was white. Then, in 1716, Mather was reading Dr. Emmanuel Timonius's writing, Philosophical Transactions. Timonius was extolling the virtues of inoculation from Constantinople, which was under Muslim rule. Now, let me stop right there. When I say Muslim rule, I mean black rule, because those were the Moors. Okay? That's where Onesimus was from. Could Onesimus have been telling the truth? Did Muslims now know how to prevent smallpox? And how come Jesus didn't know about this? Aside from another witch trial, there was only one way to find out if inoculation really worked. After questioning Onesimus further, Mather followed the African heathen's instructions to cut himself and rub the pus of a smallpox sore into the cut in order to make himself immune. After trying to cure himself, Mather finally believed Onesimus and started telling doctors everywhere, even sending letters abroad. But American medical professionals thought Mather was out of his mind and taking the advice of an African. Boston's elite argued that it was immoral to interfere with the divine providence. But one physician, Dr. Zidel Boylston, took Onesimus' advice, pricking smallpox sores, which weren't too hard to find at that time, and injecting the pus under the skin of willing participants. In total, Boylston got about 280 people to participate in the quickest vaccine trials ever. For their efforts, Mather and Boylston were pilloried by the local press, including the New England publisher James Franklin. He was the publisher of the New England Courant, by the way. In 1721, smallpox killed about 14% of Boston's population, but only 6 of the people inoculated by Onesimus' recipe died. Massachusetts would quickly become the first state to promote public vaccination, helped by James Franklin's younger brother, who eventually became a bigwig. Aside from spreading Onesimus' vaccine idea, I'm sure James Franklin's little brother, Benjamin Franklin, did some other stuff. Having saved Mather's family and ultimately whole colonies, Onesimus tried to purchase his freedom from Mather shortly after the smallpox epidemic, even offering to buy another enslaved person to replace him. Mather refused, explaining that he couldn't send Onesimus out into the world as an unsaved soul. No self-respecting, slave-owning, witch-burning Christian would do something too so egregious. That's from the book Black AF History. If you didn't get that, the owner of the Current was the big brother of Benjamin Franklin. Hello. What was that about the founding fathers and slavery? I rest my case. Okay. So this segment, I want to talk a little bit about what's going on. Of course, you know the government shutdown is taking place. And a lot of benefits are not being paid by the government. You know, I was thinking about taking a plane trip. I'm just not going to take a plane trip right now. I'm just being cautious. Nothing is happening. These people are still reporting to work. The air traffic controllers, the guards that check your bags, all of that, TSA, all that, they're still reporting to work. But you know, it's hard to have a little incentive when you ain't getting that paycheck. It's hard to have a little incentive when, you know, the landlord don't give a damn that the government is shut down. It's the first of the year. I needs my money like a hog needs slop. Okay? So I'm not going to be taking a plane trip anytime soon. Of course, SNAP benefits, and we've been talking about since they've been talking about this big, beautiful debacle of a bill that was passed back in late March. We're now at a point where the Democrats have not knuckled on, but stood up and said, hey, look, we're not going any further until you address health care. We've talked a little bit on this show about me having health care, that I need health care. We've talked about that. So now SNAP benefits are about to expire. In fact, November 1st, they all expired. In fact, people get a card now. You don't get food stamps, they get a card. Those cards are not going to be replenished. The blue states, in which one I live in, are saying that they want to replenish the cards with state money, but they hope to be reimbursed with federal dollars. But guess what the federal government, that means the Rethuglican party, said, oh no, we're not going to replenish that money. So the states have said, okay, if you're not going to replenish the money, then we're not going to reimburse. So we might be headed to a hunger crisis here in America, right here during the holidays. And by the way, your president is gallivanting across the country, who has just taken money, $250 million, to build a not needed ballroom in the White House. And all of his, by the way, his friends are making money. Okay? Let me just ask a quick question, because let me just tell you how they feel. And one of the things that I wanted to do is, there is an old saying that was related to Marie Antionette back in the day, because she and her husband were living high on the hog, but a lot of the French people were literally dying and starving to death. And she came out with the saying, let them eat cake. All right? And let me just give you a quick historical background on that. It's a famous phrase attributed to Marie Antoinette, symbolizing royal indifference. Okay? But historical evidence suggests she never said it. It appeared in writings decades before she was queen, and the story was used by anti-monarchists to highlight the aristocracy's disconnect from the plight of the poor during the French Revolution. Okay? Modern usage of the metaphor is related to inequality. The phrase is still used today as a metaphor to criticize the perceived ignorance of the wealthy and the powerful toward the struggles of the less fortunate. I think that is apropos, because what the Rethuglican Party is telling the American people who are poor is let them eat cake. By the way, I'm going to read to you something that one of your great representatives said. Clay Higgins, what is he worth? Because I want to talk about that. Because he basically said, and I'm going to read this to you here in just a moment. Let me bring this up real fast. Clay Higgins, with 40 million people about to lose their benefits, 40 million people who may not be able to eat, he suggested that those 40 million people are crack addicts. This shows you how out of touch these people are. Okay. His state has nearly 1 million people who rely on food stamps. He insulted everybody on Twitter. Listen to this. He says, there are 22 million American households receiving SNAP benefits for groceries at $4,200 per average a year. Try to get your head wrapped around how many pantries you can stock with $4,200 in properly shopped groceries. Any American who has been receiving $4,200 per year of free groceries and does not have at least 1 month of groceries stocked should never again receive SNAP. Because, wow, stop smoking crack. Hello? That is from Clay Higgins of Louisiana, who is a congressman. Hello? I gotta just do this real fast. Net worth. I gotta do this. I'm looking up Clay Higgins' net worth. Let's see. Clay Higgins' net worth is about $500,000. Okay? $500,000. I got to do one more thing. Okay? Let's do this. Let's say PACs who support Clay Higgins. I'm doing this live on the air. I do this for a purpose because I want to teach you all, I want to show you how easy it is to do research. That's Brian Higgins. I want Clay Higgins. It's just this easy to do research. Let's see. Let's see. Eye of the Tiger contributed $47,500. House of Freedom Fund contributed $15,000. Let's see. Redemption PAC, at least sponsored Higgins himself. Industry-specific PACs. Other contributions have come from oil and gas and health. And let's see. LAC Group, the group that contributed to his campaign. There you go. Let's go to Open Secrets. His top contributors, top industry, $66,400. Top contributor, $27,400. Now, why am I doing this? Because I've told you all over and over again that rich people don't give a damn about y'all. But I want to get back to my SNAP folks, if that's okay with y'all. I want to get back to them. Because I want to ask you the question now. You think voting matters? Remember all those rappers y'all were listening to, them dumbass black folks that were telling you that your vote doesn't matter? I know what you want to say, a left wing and a right wing is part of the same bird. I agree with that in theory. But that old saying, you got to pick your poison, you got to vote of, what is it, the lesser of two evils. In this particular case, you're realizing that the evil that you voted for, or you didn't vote, because if you didn't vote, theoretically, you voted for what you're getting today. And if your SNAP benefits have been cut, I hate to tell you, it's your fault. If we learn nothing else from this, the next time some idiot gets on the radio, their podcast, or anything like that and say your vote doesn't matter, I want you to think back on November 1st, 2025, when you went to the grocery store. And by the way, I just happened to go to the grocery store on Saturday. And usually at the first of the month, it's hell. Because you know why? Because people have gotten their SNAP benefits. Hello? When I went Saturday, I was in and out in 15 minutes. There were no long lines. In fact, the store that I went to here in Towson is usually packed. They even had cashiers. Scared the hell out of me. The cashiers were just standing there. I'm assuming, expecting a bigger crowd. Maybe they got it. But here's my point to you all, my brothers and sisters, is that we have to deal with this election system. We cannot afford to opt out. We have to use the tools that are important to us to make things happen. After all, we contribute to it. Next time you meet someone that tells you don't vote, I want you to ask them for $25. Now that's a minuscule amount. But that's like them telling you, or let me take that back. I want you to give them $25 of your money. Because when someone tells you not to vote, they're basically telling you to give them money that you have no control over. You're paying taxes. Even if you don't pay your income tax, you're paying taxes on your gas, your food, your liquor, whatever the case may be. That's your money. And for someone to tell you that your money, so you can just give it to people and not have any say-so on what they do with it, they're a damn fool and you're a damn fool for listening to them. And this SNAP thing right now, where people may go hungry, where people are about to lose their insurance, or their insurance is going to triple or quadruple, let this be a lesson to all of us that even though politicians piss us off, we can control them. Think about this. Why are these Rethuglicans following Donald Trump hook, line, and sneaker? I said sneaker, sinker. They're doing it because Donald Trump is threatening to what? Primary them. In other words, Donald Trump is telling them that if you don't do what I say, we're going to get voters to vote your asses out of office. Question. Why aren't we doing the same thing? Is that if they don't answer to the public, then we're going to vote them out of office. And you SNAP recipients and all of you people who are about to lose your benefits, including me, I don't get SNAP, but I do participate in the Affordable Health Care Subsidy Program. And I vote, by the way. Let this be a lesson to you. You see, a millionaire rapper can say things because, see, he's got millions in the bank. You living on government subsidies. So where you're trying to follow his lead and say, yeah, Cube was right. You know, dog is right, or whomever, Snoop Happy Dog, or Snoop Cat Dog, whomever you following. They got money in the bank. You don't. Your mama, your grandmama, and your friends, your cousins, your wife, your ex-girlfriend, your baby mama is depending on SNAP benefits. And she needs to have her ass out at the polls every chance she get. And if this doesn't make you want to go to the polls and vote these bastards out, then you the damn fool. You the fool. I'm just saying. We'll take a break. Called Black Focus Radio. Don't care if you're mad. Our issues, our solutions, our voices. UnjoinedRadio.com.
Black Friday has already started at ribrub.com. Get great deals on rubs, sauces, snacks, and the best value. Coleman's dynamic gift boxes pack with rib rubs, rib nuts, rib juice, pepper juice, rib dust, and fry dust. Get your choice of hot and spicy, original, and scorching flavors. Here's the secret. The gift box is the best value. Sign up for the Rib Rub Nation newsletter and get even more great discounts at ribrub@gmail.com. Avoid the holiday rush and order today at ribrub.com. That is ribrub.com. Black Friday has already started at ribrub.com. Avoid the holiday rush and order today at ribrub.com. That's ribrub.com.
Welcome back to Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices. 855-525-5683 is the number. That's how you get in touch with me. If you'd like to join the show, you know, I was talking about the SNAP benefits, and we're going to talk about Zora Mondanian in just a moment. But what's going on in our Congress right now is a clear example of why trickle-down economics doesn't work. And by the way, if you go back and you look at history in the modern times, every time a Republican has been in the White House, we've suffered economically. And when I say we, I'm talking about we po folk. I say po because some of y'all so po you can't even get the OR on the other end of it. But I find it fascinating that these rich folks who are in Congress don't give a damn about their constituents. They pit you against one another only to make you think that someone is trying to steal what you have. When in reality, the people doing the stealing are the people who are writing the laws. Those are the people that they don't want you to know about that. They don't want you to know. And SNAP people, you have never even thought about some of y'all voting. Oh, by the way, I need to make sure you all understand, because see, the lie that they've been telling you all is, oh, see, them brown people are taking all y'all money. See, we can't afford to pay for our own people because of you brown people. You know what I'm saying? That's what they're telling you. Okay, let me just read something to you real fast. The percentages need to be changed to numbers for the SNAP benefits breakdown. 15,170,000 are white, 10,660,000 African American, and 6,560,000 Hispanic. There are 4,510,000 more white people on SNAP than black people, and 8,610,000 more than Hispanics. Hello? 37% of recipients are white. 26% of recipients are black. 16% recipients Hispanic. 3 to 4% Asian. Native American, approximately 2%. They did a number on you white folks. Your own white supremacist buddies have did a number on you. And the only thing that they relate to you about is your white skin. So they're keeping you from being successful because of your white skin. Let me just say this. Here's what Lyndon Baines Johnson said: if you can convince the lowest white man he's better than the best colored man, he won't know you're picking his pocket. Hell, give him someone to look down on, and he'll empty his pockets for you. That's working. That's working. Don't get mad at me. And every time something happens, the first thing y'all want to do is get mad at black folk. When black folks over here minding their own business, we ain't even marching anymore. We're letting the Hispanics and the Asians march. We just sitting here eating, enjoying the family reunion, and sitting on the porch. You know, back in the day, we had porches. And, you know, when people would walk by, you say, man, did you see that? Man, that's crazy. That's what we doing. We sitting on the porch. You know, the swing and the porch. And we just watching the world go by. Because we've been out there in that. Hello, white people. You snap folks better get to the polls. Okay? And stop listening to white folks who don't have your interest at heart. And stop listening to black folks who don't have your interest at heart. Speaking of interest at heart, let's talk about Zoran Mamdani. If you haven't heard that name by now, you are going to hear it, because I believe after Tuesday, tomorrow, he will be the first elected Muslim of New York City. I've talked about him before on this show. And I am excited because here is a man who immigrated to America, became an American citizen, and decided that he's going to do work in his community of New York. And he's done just that, so much so that he's gotten a huge following. White people have been trying to keep him out of office. They come up with all kinds of lies about this man. I've watched the debate between Silva and Cuomo and Mamdani. Silva used to run a vigilante organization. Now he's gotten old and he's the Republican candidate. Cuomo was a Democratic candidate and lost in the primaries and decided that he was going to run independent because no one wanted a Muslim to be the mayor of New York. And all of the racists have come out, both Democrat and Republican, against Mamdani. In fact, it wasn't up until about a week ago that Hakeem Jeffries decided that he was going to throw his support behind Mamdani. But the Democratic establishment are wringing their hands and they're clutching their pearls. And, oh my God, we're going to have a Muslim that is going to be the head of the biggest city in America. The same city that Donald Trump came from. The same city that Andrew Cuomo was the governor and decided that he wanted to sexually assault 13 women, so much so that he would go and get the medical information from one of his victims and try to shame her. This is the guy you want for mayor? I could see why, because some of you all voted for Donald Trump. This is nothing more. Cuomo and, of course, Silva doesn't even register on the map. They've been trying to get him to drop out of the race so that maybe Cuomo would have a chance. But New Yorkers ain't no damn fool. And I think that if Mamdani wins, this will be a beacon of light for the rest of the country in 2026. Because, you know, I'm watching a debate and all Cuomo can bring up is anti-Semitism. Well, Cuomo, he claims that Mamdani is a racist and hates Jews, which he has never said. He has certainly defended the Palestinians, and he has certainly said that America needs to stop spending money in Israel and take care of Americans. Raise your hand if you agree with that. There's been a lot of politicians who are beginning to change, and there is a sea change that is happening as it relates to Israel and the billions of dollars that we are sending Israel. Just last segment, I talked about the SNAP benefits being cut. Did you know that the money that they're sending to Israel would fund our SNAP benefits? Did y'all know that? Did you know that? So we're sending money to Israel to support an illegal war that has killed 20,000 children. Hello? Yet we can't feed people here in America. There's something wrong. And when Mamdani was asked by all of the people who were in this debate about what would be the first thing that they would do, first thing they said was, I'd go to Israel. Mamdani said, I'd go back to New York, into the 5 Barrels, where the people need us. I'm elected mayor of New York, not of Israel. Why are we kowtowing to Israel? They tried to make that an issue about Mamdani. Oh, he hates the Jews. He's never said that. He stands for the Palestinians, as many Americans are beginning to awaken about this atrocity that America is participating in. America is the one that is throwing the rock and hiding their hand by funding Israel. The Democratic Party establishment has not come out and backed Zoran Mamdani. What does that say about them, black people of New York? Chuck Schumer hasn't supported Mamdani. Everybody wants to label him a democratic socialist. Well, wait a minute. What the hell is Donald Trump when he's grifting all of this money off of the American taxpayer? What about you? And I say this all the time when people start talking about, oh, that's socialism. You like driving on that interstate? Oh, wait a minute, those street lights in your neighborhood, you like that? What about that road in your that you can drive to your house where your address is located? You know that's socialism, like anytime, you know your utility company is a socialist because most utility companies are owned by the state. So when you hit that light button and your light comes on, oh, you never thought that was socialism, did you? There are a lot of things that are happening in America every day that has been happening for decades is nothing more than socialism. Hello? Your jail is socialism. That's the state or your city deciding that they are going to keep criminals off the street. They're employing socialism. So you're mad at Zoran Mamdani because he's a democratic socialist who want people to be able to live in rent-free housing, or I shouldn't say rent-free housing, but housing that's affordable? I will tell you right now, I live in Towson, Maryland. I've been all over this area, Virginia, DC, Maryland. I've talked to a lot of people. I've had the pleasure of getting to know a lot of people and going to their enclaves and seeing where they live and how they live. And prior to me getting the place where I live today, I was inquiring about rent. Man, some of the rent that people are paying up here is ridiculous. And they're saying that it's even much higher in New York. The flat that I live in now would probably cost me $6,000, $7,000 a month. Something that I can't afford. And many of those people in New York can't afford it. That's why the homelessness is so ridiculous. That's why homelessness all over this country is bad. People cannot afford to live in homes or apartments because they are too expensive. And they're not making the money needed. And landlords can increase your rent. Before I moved to the DMV, I was living in Little Rock, Arkansas, and I had lived in that apartment complex for 2 years. I signed an initial 6 months lease. After the lease was signed, they sent me another one saying, hey, look, you need to sign this lease. And by the way, your rent is going up this amount. So they sent my rent up $50. By the time I had left, my rent had increased $350. Hello? That was in Little Rock, Arkansas. Now imagine in New York City. That's ridiculous, man. Here's a man who simply say, people need to be able to live free. People need to be able to live with economically, and landlords should not be able to charge you rent fee just to increase it, just to say, because look, you're not getting anything new when they increase your rent. When they increase your rent, they say, oh, you know what? We're going to increase your rent because we're going to put you some new air conditioning in there. We're going to put some new lighting in there. We're going to pave your patio. Hell no, you're getting the same damn thing. They just increasing your rent. And Zoran Mandami has said this needs to stop. He's going to look at millionaires and billionaires to pay their fair cost or fair share. That's what should have been happening long ago. But corporate America has decided that they run America and they're going to do what they want. And Zoran Mandami has said, no, you're not going to do it under my administration. And white people are tripping. That's an old colloquialism. Colloquialism. I hope I said that right. Tried it 3 times. I'm for Zoran Mandami, and I'm for anyone who came up in the grassroots. You see, you have to live with people to understand what they went through. It's kind of like when you grow up in the projects and your neighbor's son done got in trouble. And although you're mad and you're angry because he got in trouble, but you kind of understand why he got in trouble. That doesn't make it right. But the environment caused that. We have to start thinking about people. We have to start making sure that people are treated like people. And Zoran Mandami, at least for now, is saying all the right things. And if the Democratic Party was smart, I'd be listening. Because this is the message that you need to carry to the people over the next year. Is that we are the party of the people. We're going to show you, and we're going to juxtapose the Rethuglican party and how they backed millionaires and billionaires and have proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that they don't give a damn about people. They were willing to cut your SNAP benefits. They were willing to cut your health care. They're willing to defund your hospitals so that they can give millionaires and billionaires tax breaks on your back. As many have said, this is the biggest transfer of wealth from poor people to rich people. This should not be happening. And Zoran Mandami represents, hopefully, a change in the mentality of the voter. We want to know what you're going to do. We don't care where you're from. Long as you're an American, we want to know what you're going to do, who you're going to stand up for and against. And if I could vote in New York, I would for Zoran Mandami. And I hope you would tell your friends. I know a lot of people in this area who are from New York. Tell your friends to vote Mandami. You can't do any worse. And Democrats, you better be paying attention. We got to take our last break. It's called What We Must Do. Back in a moment, you're listening to Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices on joynetradio.com. Hey friends, David W. Coleman here for Coleman's Dynamic Products and ribrub.com. That's RIBBRUBB.com. It's where you will find the best dry marinade for baking, grilling, and smoking your favorite meats and vegetable. We're gearing up for a very busy season, so I want you to make sure you take advantage of the great sale we've got going on right now. It's the Coleman's Dynamic Gift Box. It comes in 3 great flavors: hot and spicy, original, or scorching, or a 4th combination box. What is a Coleman's Dynamic Gift Box? Well, I'm glad you asked. You get 3 bags of Coleman's Dynamic Rib Rub, 3 bags of Coleman's Dynamic Rib Nuts, a bag of Coleman's Dynamic Fry Dust, and of course, you get a bottle of rib juice, pepper juice, and rib dust. You can't beat that. Order a Coleman's Dynamic Gift Box today and get a digital copy of the Coleman's Dynamic Recipe Book. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now is the time to place that order for Coleman's Dynamic Gift Box before the holiday rush. And remember, bake it, grill it, smoke it. Oh yeah, at ribrub.com. Oh boy, welcome back to the last segment, What We Must Do. If you missed any of the show, you can rewind and go back to the beginning. Today we talked a little bit about Rosewood, another stop during the Red Summer. We also talked about Latinos, at it again, begging black folks to help them. No, we're not going to do that. We talked about 3i Atlas, the alien probe that is traveling through our solar system as we speak. Beam me up, Scotty. We'll see how that goes. We also talked a little bit about, we talked about Zoran Mondami, and we talked about Marie Antionette and Let There Be Cake and the mentality of white folks. Which brings me to this point. What's wrong with white people? What's wrong with white people? When you go back and you look at the history of white people and how they've abused people of different races other than white people, you would think at some point white people as a whole would say, you know what? We really messed up. Just imagine where we would be if we wouldn't have been killing all those folks. They're probably saying, well, we'd probably still be in caves. Some of them would. Some of them would have gotten enlightened. But you would tend to believe that as much misery and pain that you've inflicted on the world, that you would say, look, we messed up. We really messed up on this slavery thing. Let's fix it. So instead of going to war for slavery, we're going to free all the slaves. And you know what? We're going to give them reparations and we're going to give them land. Just think where America would be today with all of the innovations that were created by black people, and many of them that were stolen by white people that was created by black people. Just think where we'd be. There's got to be some pathological psychosis that is going on in white people to continue to double and triple and quadruple down on whiteness and their history of abuse. This administration alone exemplifies that. What would happen if white people said, hey, we messed up around the world. We're going to be a beacon of hope, a beacon of light. This is what you claim America is, but it really isn't. It's a beacon of discrimination. Right now, they are bombing boats off the coast of Venezuela, killing people and think it's okay. They're doing nothing more than what the Israelis are doing. They're killing Palestinians in Gaza, and now we're bombing and killing innocent Venezuelans. I said, oh, well, they're drug dealers. This is a typical white mentality. There's no evidence of proof that they're drug dealers. As a matter of fact, one boat they bombed, 2 men survived. You would tend to believe that if those were actual drug dealers, they would have been captured, brought to America, and tried as drug dealers. But instead, they sent them to Ecuador. Ecuador said, hey, whoa, wait a minute. Nope, these are family men. Nope, we sending them back to where they came from. They sent them back to Venezuela. This is how depraved these people are. That's why I ask, what's wrong with white people? That you can't sit and see, no, that's wrong. Even though you might back someone politically, wouldn't you say to yourself, you know what? That's a bridge too far. Jumping on a 70-year-old Hispanic man and breaking his ribs, that's a bridge too far. Separating women and children, mothers and children, that's a bridge too far. But you know what they still say? Yeah, that's what you get. Shouldn't be in America. This is America. This is for white folks. What's wrong with them? Where's your compassion? Where's your empathy? Where's your sympathy? Any basic human being would have that. Don't you think? Any basic human being, you would, every now and then, as hard as I think I am sometimes, I'm one of those people that I don't give money to people on the side of the road. I've had a person who asked me, let's say I was in Little Rock a while back. This was years ago. When I first moved to Little Rock, I went and ate at a Wendy's, had a burger. Guy was standing outside, looked disheveled. He definitely was homeless. He said, hey man, can you buy me something to eat? I said, no. He said, can you give me some money to buy me something to eat? I said, no, I tell you what, I'm not going to give you any money, but I will go in here and buy you something to eat. And I went in and bought him a sandwich. By the time I came out, apparently he had asked other people. He had like 3 bags. And he looked as if, I done messed up. I said, no, brother, that's all right. I know you need to eat. If you have some friends, whatever you have, take it to them, feed them. I'm not saying that to brag on myself. But I used to didn't have that compassion. I work just as hard as you. You can go work just like I do. Every now and then, your humanity rears its head and says, hey, bro, think about it. You could be in the same boat. I once complained for having no shoes until I saw the man who had no feet. You could be in the same boat. Somebody, and over my lifetime, there have been difficult situations that I've been in where people that I did not know reached out and touched me. I could tell you the story of being stranded in Jackson, Tennessee one time with no money and a flat tire. And people reached out and helped me. It's an ordeal, but it helped. They did. So I asked the question, how is it that over centuries of hate, destruction, evilness, that you as white people have decided that you are not going to change? You've decided that you're okay with your history of slavery. You're okay with the rape and degradation of a people, of a continent. You're okay with that. I don't understand. I am personally confused that at some point there should be compassion. At some point, you as a people, just like you tell black people, we need to take a look at our community. The first thing white people want to talk about is the black community. Just like when Charlie Kirk was killed, the first thing they want to do is run and assault the black community. You heard me talk about in Rosewood, when those people were minding their own damn businesses and white people got upset because Rosewood was thriving, just like many of these other red summer towns that were killed, that were burned to the ground. Black people were minding their own business. And white people decided that, hey, we're going to go and mess with the black folks. It's just like the white folks that showed up on Tennessee State's campus. That school up there minding its own business, and white folks want to show up and try to start something. That's a sickness. It makes no sense to me. And it shouldn't make sense to any well-rounded individual, regardless of race, creed, color, or national origin. I'm sitting on the porch, right? We grew up sitting on the porch. Guy walks down the street. He just starts throwing rocks at me on the porch. I don't know this guy. Never seen him before. He just starts throwing rocks. I'm minding my own business, on my porch, on my swing, drinking my lemonade. Should this guy expect me to be angry at him? Yeah. But you don't think white people are the ones walking down the street. We sitting on the porch and you throwing rocks at us. And you say black folks shouldn't be angry? Same with you Latinos. You following the white man. You see the white man throw rocks at black folks who's sitting on the porch just drinking their lemonade. Guess what? Latinos start throwing rocks at us too. And so do the Asians. And even some of the Africans who don't even understand that they are subjects of white supremacy just like the entire world is. Yeah, this is crazy. I say all that to say this, is that being awoke is being aware. And being aware means that you understand what people are doing to you to try and destroy you. And they will do it. And it's pretty clear that there are some, even in our government, who just simply wants to throw rocks at black folks. And what black folks need to start doing is picking up those rocks and throwing them back. And that's what we must do. I hope you enjoyed the show. Hope you tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. Like, share, and subscribe. Don't forget there are some Black Friday things going on ribrub.com. You can get a gift box for $29.95. That thing is almost $50 regular price. Go out there and get one right now. Okay? And don't forget to support our sponsors, ribrub.com, RIBBRUBB.com, and of course, Joynet Radio, who allows this broadcast to take place in the state of Arkansas. And Lord knows y'all need some help down there. Hello. We gotta go. Let's see here. Let's go with this quote. Let's go with this quote by Malcolm X as we close. Only a fool fights by the ground rules that his enemy has laid down for him. Peace. Hey friends, David W. Coleman here for Coleman's Dynamic Products and ribrub.com. That's RIBBRUBB.com. It's where you will find the best dry marinade for baking, grilling, and smoking your favorite meats and vegetables. We're gearing up for a very busy season, so I want you to make sure you take advantage of the great sale we've got going on right now. It's the Coleman's Dynamic Gift Box. It comes in 3 great flavors: hot and spicy, original, or scorching, or a 4th combination box. What is a Coleman's Dynamic Gift Box? Well, I'm glad you asked. You get 3 bags of Coleman's Dynamic Rib Rub, 3 bags of Coleman's Dynamic Rib Nuts, a bag of Coleman's Dynamic Fry Dust, and of course, you get a bottle of rib juice, pepper juice, and rib dust. You can't beat that. Order a Coleman's Dynamic Gift Box today and get a digital copy of the Coleman's Dynamic Recipe Book. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now is the time to place that order for Coleman's Dynamic Gift Box before the holiday rush. And remember, bake it, grill it, smoke it. Oh yeah, at ribrub.com.
You've been listening to Black Focus, where we discuss our issues with our solutions and our voices. Join us every weekday afternoon at 1 p.m. on joinetradio.com.